Hi, this is Gary Minchell, and this is another Gary on Manufacturing episode. And today I'm trying something new. I've got a guest who's on Skype also, and we're recording split screen. So if you're watching this via the YouTube channel, you can see both myself and John Neeley, who's product manager extraordinaire and other things at Fluke. And we're going to talk about a technology and a product that I saw demoed in the first part of May, and I've been wanting to get him on this TV, if you want to call it, for quite some time. And we finally hooked up, and here it is. So, John, welcome to my podcast slash videocast.
Thanks for having me.
And we want to talk about something called Fluke Connect. And when I saw this, it was like a road show that you do for editors. And I thought, wow, this is a really cool use of the most modern technology for not only the things that Fluke is familiar in the industry for measuring devices of various kinds. I mean, I'm electrically inclined, so I've always had multimeters and stuff. But the use of cloud and connectivity and mobile and just all kinds of stuff, and I thought it was really cool. So I wonder if you could take a little bit or maybe introduce yourself and what are we talking about with this Fluke Connect system?
All right. So by way of introduction, my name is John Neeley, and I'm a product manager. I am the product manager of Fluke Connect. Um, so Fluke Connect is essentially a combination of three things. Just like you said, Gary, it's a combination of Fluke tools that talk wirelessly to consumer devices like smartphones and PCs and tablets, and the cloud. Okay, and that combination of tools, consumer devices like smartphones, PCs, tablets, and the cloud, well, it enables a maintenance team and even hobbyists to communicate about measurements and visualize them much easier. So it's a communication and visualization tool.
Okay, and how might one use this?
Oh, sure. So let's see. Um, so Fluke does a lot of research on our customers. We try to follow them around factories or see them build devices. And in the course of following them around, we noticed that, preventive maintenance techs were taking measurements, writing them down in notebooks, and then going back to their computers and typing them into an email or into a work order management system or into an asset health system. And we kind of thought, a lot of typing. And then we also noticed that for more complicated measurements like thermal imagers or vibration spectra, you can't really write it down in a notebook, and you're running back to your PC, and you're using different pieces of software, and you're cutting and pasting that into an asset health system or a work order. And we got to thinking, looking at, Android phones, iPhones, and our tools, that if we connected all these things, you wouldn't have to write anything down. And you wouldn't even need to walk back to the desk to get that report or information to your colleagues. And that's essentially where the idea came to connect our tools, let's say smartphones, and the cloud, so we could get that information around to the rest of the team, from the preventive maintenance tech to their team members and to their managers.
Let's probe a little bit into the technology then. What do you use to connect?
Okay, well, Fluke makes a lot of different tools, and so we want to use pretty much off-the-shelf wireless technologies like Bluetooth or Bluetooth Low Energy and Wi-Fi. Okay, so you can imagine that for a DMM, I get the number out of there, and we want the DMM to last, 2 years on its batteries, so we use Bluetooth Low Energy. If you use a thermal imager, okay, well, a thermal imager is a lot of information, way more than a number. We want the person to be able to quickly, so we use Wi-Fi. So the answer depends on the tool, but we essentially engineer the wireless to fit the purpose. Low power, long battery life, quick transfer.
Fantastic. And we should have maybe arranged. It would have been cool if you could show some of the stuff that I saw, but
Okay.
should have brought that up. That's one of those afterthoughts. But
You do have a lot of information on the website.
oh, and we'll put a link
Okay.
in the show notes to the website. but it's the ability for actually multimedia and to take all kinds of different information in different kinds of formats and give it to somebody that's useful. So I wondered then, it's been out now. You introduced it to me in May. You had units, I believe, out working before that. So this is September, so it's been quite some time. And you must have some use cases where people have used this in a variety of different ways. I can imagine a number of different ways. So what have you just found so far? How do customers like this? What different kinds of weird applications have they come up with?
So you are absolutely right that when we release the technology into the wild, we like to call it, customers find all kinds of uses that we hadn't thought of. So yes, we released it in the end of April publicly, but we actually were doing alpha trials almost a year earlier. Okay, and so I'm going to take you through several different of those cases, several different use cases. The first thing we found out, as far as Fluke customers, is that they work in a lot of different environments, not all of them in wireless connection. Okay, so you can imagine a preventive maintenance tech who's in a refinery or a chemical processing plant deep in the bowels of this plant. Okay, we needed to make sure that the system worked even if there's no wireless connection to the outside world. So first thing we learned is that preventive maintenance techs are sometimes in a steel box and they need this wireless connection between the tools and the smartphone to work no matter what. So that wireless technology we mentioned is point to point. Even if it can't get to the internet outside, the DMM will talk to the smartphone or PC or tablet, just like the thermal imager and other products will talk to the smartphone, PC, or tablet. We learned that we had to cache the data locally, and then when they walked back outside or got to an internet connection, then we could upload all that stuff to the cloud. Okay, so that was one of the first learnings. The other thing is that there are different roles and different situations that the techs like to communicate. So you were mentioning kind of a multimedia experience. Well, we found out that there are at least 3 different ways that techs like to communicate. Kind of peer-to-peer to troubleshoot together. All right. And by that I mean we had a facilities maintenance supervisor. And he is in charge of this team that goes around with trucks all week. He spends at least 3 hours on the phone or walkie-talkie trying to explain to his techs how to set up monitoring. All right. They're going to do 2 or 3 days of logging with Fluke equipment. And if they set up the wrong logging, they've got 2 or 3 days of useless data. And so what we found out is that we could use the video camera on the phones, all right, so that the supervisor could actually see where are the techs putting all the leads, where are they setting up the logs, and the supervisor could do this remotely, never needing to drive there, and ensuring that the logs were working. Okay, so that's an immediate communication. We call it share live. You essentially see exactly the measurements on your cell phone or on your PC, and you can actually see video of where the measurements are being taken. Okay, so share live is being used a lot. We can tell from the server activity. Okay, another way that techs communicate on the other end of the spectrum is across shifts. Okay, we were at an airport, and the baggage handling at this airport has about 400, motors. Okay, and shift 1 during the day has to move a lot of baggage, and they are essentially trying to communicate which motors are burning out, installation for whatever reason, to the next shift so that they can start repairs. Usually there was a meeting, a big water cooler meeting at the end of the day where a lot of notes were being traded and a lot of conversation about which motors, which one was that, which one was that, which one was that. And what we created was a way, we call it equipment log, for shift 1 to make records on particular motors. Show the thermal image of them, show the temperature, show even the vibration, and it would be automatically stored in equipment log, kind of like a Facebook page for equipment. And the next shift could come in and look at the Facebook page. Okay, that way the transfer of knowledge across shifts was much faster. Okay, so we noticed then on that very same preventive maintenance scenario for the motors that in addition to the measurements, people needed to add text notes, audio notes on the motor so that they could have a dialogue. That is, shift one could add, well, motor looks a little bit hot. It looks like we need to tighten up the mounting. Leave this as a text note. Go home, have dinner. They could actually get a notification that shift two was working on it. They said, actually, that's a different problem. And they could see it while, finishing up dinner, type in, well, I guess you're right. And they never had to email. They never had to get on the phone. And it was all recorded underneath that one equipment. Okay, so that's a different case of kind of preventive maintenance turning into the repair. Oh, I'm getting notes. Okay. My colleague is telling me to explain again, how does this work? All right.
That's what a good producer does. Is usually you've got the microphone in the ear so that they can talk to you.
Much appreciated, Gary. So yes, my producer is telling me, explaining how it works. All right, and I probably should have some props here. Okay, my bad. But if you can imagine that this smartphone is a Fluke tool. Okay, and I've got my iPhone. Okay, in a nutshell, I have this tool that works. It has wireless in it, and I start up Fluke Connect, and I can pair these wirelessly so that any measurement I take automatically gets transferred to this phone. Okay, it doesn't matter what Fluke tool you're using, whether it is a DMM, volts, amp, a spot temp, a thermal imager, vibration analyzer, they will all get over to the Fluke Connect phone. Okay, at that point you can automatically save them. They are automatically saved to the phone, and once the phone is back in the interconnect connection, it is saved to the cloud. You never need to worry about losing a measurement again. You never need to write it down. Okay, you can always look back through, just kind of like you look through your pictures on the phone, and you can find your historically saved measurements, and you can email those. Again, you don't ever have to worry about saving them. They're just all there in chronological order. Okay, the email is automatically formatted, so if you had a DMM, it would have a nice number. If you graphed the DMM measurement, we put that in a PDF or Word document. If you had a thermal image, all the same. You don't have to switch pieces of software. Okay, just like you can use one piece of software for all Fluke tools, you can use the same piece of software to email and communicate. You don't have to switch software. Okay, and then the last part, if you want to do more than just email, you want to trend measurements on a piece of equipment for preventive maintenance. You can easily associate, let's say, a temp reading taken this month to a piece of equipment. And if you take a temp reading the next month, you can associate it to a piece of equipment. And Fluke Connect will automatically start drawing graphs. Okay, you don't need to go use Excel. It'll just start graphing your PM measurements. Okay, so that way we can turn the act of simply measuring and clicking, oh, motor one, into basically a preventive maintenance trend on any Fluke measurement. Okay, the producer's saying, in summary, connect tools, save an email. So connect tools, the measurement's automatically sent over to the phone. You can see it. You can save the measurement by equipment. Okay, and it's automatically, all this is synced to the cloud. And if you want, you could even share a live video in the measurement with other techs. And then the other techs can come back to that equipment and see the baseline and see the trend.
Fantastic. So you're solving a lot of problems that I run across in my travels. One of which is recording. It's one of the biggest problems is actually recording the stuff, and a lot of places still have even clipboards and paper, and people write it down and they make mistakes, don't enter it. So the next error point is keyboard entry, which isn't usually good. And so you solve that problem, and you add to the solution by bringing more things in that can be actually automatically recorded, measurements and actually pictures and stuff. So that's one thing. And then collaboration is another huge tool or another huge trend that I run across all the time. And so you could collaborate. One of the typical ways with the plant is like expert to tech, and so you've got that kind of built in, and you've got the historian stuff. You can go back and look. You solve a lot of problems the way I see it, using a lot of the most modern technologies. That's why I thought it was so cool.
Much appreciated. I mean, I think that especially with your perspective and management perspective, you're absolutely right. We've got the Share Live to kind of leverage the specialists across the staff so they can collaborate live. So that live collaboration is a form of mentorship. Then we've got the combination of taking a measurement and documenting. I mean, pretty much no mistakes. We can document any type of measurement. And then the equipment log allows us to start the trends for preventive maintenance pretty easily. We've removed all the effort to document in a preventive maintenance way.
That's great. You might tell us how many of your products are enabled, or at least what types. Don't run through all the product numbers, but
Okay.
but
No
what
worries.
types of products are enabled for this right now, and what might we see in the near future?
Okay, so the roadmap is quite expansive, but in the near term, we have over 20 products enabled, ranging from various DMMs to a process meter, thermal imagers, and on the near-term roadmap, we are focused on things that would help motors like insulation test and vibration.
Great. That sounds fantastic. Any last word? I think we've covered a lot. Any last word for the listeners before we sign off?
Well, I mean, we're always interested in new requirements, and we're always interested in your feedback. This is a software service from Fluke that works with all of our tools, and so we are updating it constantly. So feel free to give that feedback, and we will respond. Other things of note, let's see here. You can pretty much use Fluke Connect from the most inexpensive tool to more advanced tools. Okay, so just jump on in because the app is free. All right, this software service is free. So you can start with a DMM, start using it and collaborating. If your team wants to start with PM tools like thermal imager or vibration, you can start there and move on down. Oh, last but not least, it is both for Android and iPhones, okay, and other deployments, that is, are coming soon.
Sounds good. Free is nice too. So
Yeah.
anyway, thanks a lot for being with us, John. This is Gary Minchell, and I've been talking with John Neeley, product manager at Fluke, talking about Fluke Connect, which is a pretty cool use of technology and kind of upping the ante a little bit, I believe. And I'll put a link in the show notes. And just appreciate you being with us, John. And
Thank you for having me.
signing off. Have a good day, everyone.